Welcome, assalamu alaikum, bonjour, and konnichiwa. It's a pleasure to invite you to The World on Your Plate, featuring Mackenzie Young, a social studies teacher here at the American School of Marrakesh. We are so fortunate to have a very active parent-teacher organization, or PTO, here at ASM. So many activities bring our community together, but in particular, food. They say that a family that eats together stays together. And it's so nice to be able to join in the community here at ASM with parents, with students, with teachers, and administrators here to gather to learn how to cook sukiyaki with Mackenzie Young. So before we begin, I do want to say just a special word to our PTO. It's led by Mrs. Jad Kadiri, who has, over the past 2 years, really taken the PTO to new heights and include new activities such as master classes, MasterChef, all sorts of different things. And so I'd like to introduce you to her today. Thank you so much to the PTO and for her leadership, Mrs. Kadiri's leadership of the PTO.
Food brings people together. It's a gateway to faraway lands and has the power to hold precious memories. Cooking can be a study of culture and showcase global diversity. The PTO aims to bring together the vibrant, diverse community that we are around our shared experiences with food. The focus will be cooking, creating, sharing, chopping, eating, talking. The World on Your Plate MasterChef series will showcase a live demonstration, as we have today, and explain the recipe from one of our community members. The session will be broadcast online, and we are fortunate today to be able to broadcast on Facebook Live as well as YouTube, thanks to Omar and our amazing team at IT team at ASM. The demonstrations will be compiled along with submissions from the entire ASM community, resulting in a PTO cookbook, We Are Family. We are fortunate today to have a teacher and passionate foodie cook, Mackenzie Young, who's going to share her history, her cooking, her influences, her travel experiences, and put it together in a dish called sukiyaki, which is something that's been passed on through generations of her family, her grandmother. And what makes Mackenzie so special is that, and I've watched this firsthand, she's actually scoured the markets of Marrakesh, spoken to farmers, people who work with organic vegetables, and really connected with our local community. So the stuff that we have that she's going to cook with, each has a story to tell, and I hope that over today's session she's going to recount those stories because that makes it special. And so I feel that her cooking has authenticity, it has roots, it has history, it has culture, it has family, and above all she wants to make it fun, interactive, and enjoyable for us. So thank you, Mackenzie. Oh, and let me introduce you to her sous-chef, Jad Kadiri, who is also an amateur chef. And I think it's wonderful that you've been able to get your students to volunteer today. So with that, over to you, Mackenzie. Let's get cooking.
Like I was joking earlier, welcome to Not My Kitchen. When we first decided to do this, we had the Sustainability Month, we went to the farmer's market, and I jokingly, but not jokingly, because I'm usually serious when I say things, I said to Priti, I'll make you curry, why don't you just come over? And so it was like 1 or 2 weeks after that, she actually came, and I just made curry. It was disastrous in the sense that they were painting the bathroom. We have one bathroom. They were painting it. If you've ever smelled paint fumes, not a good thing. So we locked ourselves in the kitchen and had curry. But cooking is, so those of you, there's been several people who have said, oh, I love sukiyaki. It's one of my favorite dishes. Well, this is my version, right? My family's version. It is in Japanese phonetics pronounced sukiyaki, but we always call it skiyaki because often the U and the SU gets dropped, the U sound gets dropped. So I decided in honor of like sustainable, this kimono top was something that I bought in Tokyo in Harajuku. It's upcycled old vintage kimonos. Not necessarily, I was prepping some things earlier, not the smartest idea when I'm trying to cook something, so I might like tuck it in a little. But I was trying to be all, you know, ready for this event. So this is something that my grandma always makes when we get together for family dinners. So the first thing I'm gonna do, I did this ahead of time because we don't necessarily have room or camera angles for the sink, but one of the really important things is washing the rice. My great aunt in Osaka, she puts the rice in a colander and scrubs it against the colander until the water runs clear and it almost kind of granulates a little. And I was thinking, oh, no big deal. I've done this a million times. It doesn't make that much of a difference, but it does. The rice texture is super fluffy and different, but now I'm gonna think that I'm not gonna be able to open it. Oh, maybe I am. But we need to soak the shiitake mushrooms. One of the things in Taiwan, so I lived in Taiwan prior to this, and they have lots of mushrooms, but these mushrooms are difficult to find here, so they're all dried. And, you know, feel free to ask questions and watch things not open, because that's gonna happen. You wanna open this? Sous-chef. So we'll soak the shiitakes. The rice has been soaking. One of the tricks is you let the rice soak for at least 20 minutes to a half an hour before you actually start it. I'm fortunate enough to have a rice cooker here. Oh, thank you, Dad. I have a rice cooker here because not that I don't know how to make it in a pot, it just set it and go, right? It's easy. Anyway, so I'm gonna put the shiitake mushrooms, in the bowl. Woo! I always joked with the students. One of the questions they asked me one year was if I wasn't a teacher, what would be my dream job? And I made the joke that I was going to have my own TV cooking show and I was going to call it Some Like It Hot, but I Like It Spicy. But then that got really suggestive because I teach teenagers, and so we decided that that was a bad idea. But I think people often gather around food, and so we are going to make a salad and then I'll start cooking the sukiyaki. It's one of the easiest things. I said to Pretty, yeah, no big deal, let's do it. My kitchen holds 5 people, so let's do it at my house. And she says, no, we gotta have the community, so here we are in not my kitchen. But I'm gonna have my lovely sous chefs. We need to make, it's called sunomono. It's just a basic cucumber salad. Once you learn it, I think you'll want it all the time, because I do. So, Jad and Hamza, you want to, there's cutting boards there. So what you want to do is you peel the cucumber. And if you have questions, let me know, because this is, you know, as much as I say I want a cooking show, I don't know if I can actually do this. So you peel, oh, and then the other thing, I totally forgot. I brought my Japanese knife because I have an amazing husband who's hiding back there. And one year for our anniversary, when we were in Japan, we went to a neighborhood called Kapabashi, which is where all the chefs shop. And he let me pick one. It was like that scene where the girl picks out the ring, but I'm not that girl, I wanted the knife. So this is my super beautiful Japanese knife, and it's got my name, my Chinese name, because in Taiwan we all had to have Chinese names for our residency. So it's got my Chinese name, Mei Quanqi, or no, Mei Quanqi is Yang Mei Qing, Yang Mei Qing. Mei Quanqi means never mind. Yeah, it's been a while since I've used my Mandarin. Okay, so super basic. What we're gonna do, and we'll put the dressing together after we get my lovely helpers here.
I just want to say the ambassador of Spain is watching you.
Hi, wherever you are. Hola, ¿cómo estás? Mucho gusto, eventually, right? Okay, so cucumber, and then we're just gonna slice them into just little rounds like this until you have a big amount, right? Because we all want to taste. So you've got some chopping to do. Thank you, Hamza. Go ahead, Jad. You can use that cutting over there. And we're gonna put it in the red bowl. So this is something that my grandma makes every summer. My favorite thing about living in Marrakesh is cucumbers are everywhere, always, and they're cheap. So this is something that I make all the time, and it's pretty healthy. There's not a lot that goes into the ingredients. You can add a little bit of onion if you want, but usually it's just cucumber and some vinegar. So you make it into kind of like a quick pickle, or a quickle, as we saw on a TV cooking show. During lockdown, I did a lot of cooking, I'm sure as everyone else did. So it's just something comforting. It reminds me of home. Now that my grandmother's older, she lives with my parents in the summertime, and it's something always in the fridge that my dad eats. And my mom will be like, "What happened to the salad?" And my dad will be like, "Oh, were we supposed to say that? Because I ate it all." But it's good. It's super simple. So the dressing is pretty easy ingredients, and I'm going to give you the not so complicated version, but also the widely available in Marrakesh version. So we have rice vinegar, and then we have mirin, which is like a Japanese cooking wine. It's a little sweet. And then you just have a little bit of salt and a little bit of sugar. And you mix it all together, and it's amazing. If you're lazy, and often when we're cooking and we want to eat something, we're lazy, because I totally am. You can buy, I've seen it in the Carrefour, I've seen it at the Marjan. They have, because Marrakesh is, I think, slightly obsessed with the idea of sushi. It's this, it has a red top. I forget what the brand is, but it says on it sushi vinegar, or vinegar for sushi preparation. And that already has the sugar, it already has the vinegar, the mirin, so it's like a one-stop shop. You throw that in with the cucumbers and a little bit of salt, and you're done. But I thought I would bring all the ingredients for you to see and sample. So I'm going to let them continue chopping. I was going to write up the recipe, but it's actually really hard, because when I cook, I don't measure anything. Recipes I love, I'm obsessed with, but they're also suggestions and guidelines. I don't follow them at all. So when we published the recipe for this dish, I looked at a lot of different versions. There's a woman on YouTube and Instagram called, her handle is Just One Cookbook. Lots of Japanese recipes, so I used kind of her breakdown of the different ingredients for the sauce of the sukiyaki as a guideline, because I was saying to Pritzi, well, I don't know, I just do it till it tastes right, and then when it tastes right, I know I'm done adding ingredients. But in a cookbook, that doesn't really work. So we will do that. The other thing I need is, Aparna, can you hand me the green onions, please? This is my other assistant, Aparna. All of it? Yes, all of them, please. Thank you. The other thing about living abroad, and I'm sure many of you who have lived in different countries know, is you start to have this like unmistakable desire for food of your childhood, food of your home country. And so Asian food, I previously lived in Asia, and so I always wanted to make other things. But now that I live here, I really want Asian food all the time. So what do when you can't find it at the store? You learn how to make it. And I think Corona was good for us in that sense, because we all learned how to make certain things because we didn't go anywhere. But I had a chance encounter at a hotel with Gary Martin of Jenam Thomasna Gardens. and he has a farmer's market at Garden Margarel every Saturday. And he's got great produce, and he grows a lot of Asian vegetables. So a lot of the things we're going to cook today, I saw him this morning. So there's this beautiful bok choy. I don't know which camera you want me to look at. This one, beautiful bok choy and carrots and some napa cabbages that we're going to be throwing in the sukiyaki. And sukiyaki really is kind of like a glorified stir-fry hot pot. So it's not super complicated and simple. And the way that my grandma always made it, so you can see there's many different ways, but the way she always made it was with water. So you can use like a dashi, which is a fish broth, or you can make it with water. And more often than not, she just used water because it's widely available and easy. If you want that extra kind of umami flavor, you can use dashi if you can find it. I don't know if we've seen it here. Have we seen it here? Okay. Okay. Cool. So we can find it. Good. Thank you, community members. If I need it, I know who I'm going to harass, which will probably be via your son's email to you, and then we'll find it out. Because I was actually I went home this summer, I got a bunch of like soy sauce and dashi and all the things that your comfort brands, because there is lots of soy sauce here and lots of it that I don't like. But that's my personal preference. By the way, those of you that are here because you like Japanese food as much as I do, I was just in Essaouira over the Thanksgiving holiday, and there is this amazing Japanese ramen chef hiding in the city. It's called Ruli's Ramen, and this man makes the noodles from scratch, and he only makes 10 bowls of ramen every day because making the noodles from scratch is super labor intensive. But anyways, I said to him, I was like, where does your soy sauce come from? How are you getting it here? Because Japanese soy sauce is like non-existent. And he says, oh no, I'm just using the one at the Carrefour. And I said, well, what are you doing to it? Because it tastes like Japanese soy sauce. It doesn't taste like the soy sauce that I don't like. No offense, any people that love it. And so he taught me a hack, which I thought was cool. I haven't tried it yet. But he said you take the bottle of soy sauce and you mix in a dried chili, just a local dried chili, and you leave it, and it gives the impression of that extra something. I don't know what it is about Japanese soy sauce that tastes so different. Maybe because I grew up just using that one.
What did you do to make this different?
They put in a dried chili. So they just put in like a dried chili and let it kind of steep. And it was delicious. We ate and ate and ate. So if you're ever there, look him up, make reservations. I'm trying to convince him to come here for a pop-up, but I mean, poor guy, here's this like crazy American woman who's like, oh my God, you can stay at my house and we'll find people to buy your ramen. Please come. So if he's a little afraid because I was full on like very serious about him, that could be it. Okay, so beautiful leeks and green onions. All I did was I cut the tops off because you're not going to eat that part. But fun kind of lockdowny tip. We were taking these and we were planting them on the balcony during the lockdown and growing some of our own kind of green onions. Because we're all about sustainability and making sure that we're being somewhat responsible citizens. Okay, so all we do is, it's a real rough chop. So you have them all and you just roughly chop them into fairly large sections. They're going to cook down. You can do this with a regular onion, but having the green onion in my mind is really kind of an essential part of the dish. The vegetable carts in my neighborhood have these spring onions, and so The first couple of times I saw them, I was very excited. I was like, oh, I want those, I'm going to cut these, and I had all these dreams of what I was going to do with this part. And then, I kid you not, this is what happened. He grabs them, he's all excited. My Darija is, Shuya, I speak none. And he gets his bunch, and he does this. He takes this, he throws it in the pot for the horses, and he gives me this, and I was like, no, that's not, I wanted that part. And so now every time we go, he has his vegetables with the greens, and this guy sees me on the regular. And he always kind of looks at me before, with his knife, and I'm like, no, I want that part. Okay. So, it's an adventure living abroad. You learn different tips and tricks. So it's a pretty rough chop that we are going to do. I'm going to cut my chop. And we just need a little bit of a neutral oil. Is there a neutral oil in there? Yeah. And the other thing I would say, if you like to cook, or even if you don't like to cook, one of the things that my husband and I do that I highly, highly recommend is when you travel, when we can travel again, take a cooking class. You learn so much about a culture and the people through their food. And it's just something that we've done Thai, we've done a cooking class in Bali, we did a food tour in Cambodia. You just learn so much about people. We took a street food tour in Cambodia, and I've just sampled some things that I never thought I would ever eat. Good question, Jad. I have had barbecued tarantula. We had some sort of salad in the dressing with ants. And it was all very kind of humble local food. And so, they offer it to you, they're very gracious and loving. And so I was like, oh, well, I guess I'm gonna do it. The best thing though is the tour guide. All of the women on the tour were like, yeah, okay, I'll do it. And, my husband and our good friend, they were looking at the bugs like, nope, I'm not gonna eat that. And then, she gave them so much crap. She was like, hey, you're gonna let all these women show you up and eat spider and eat cockroach and all these awful water beetle bug things that don't really taste that good in my opinion. But if I had to live off of something, I would definitely live off the tarantula. Believe it or not, was the best tasting thing.
What's this like?
As the spider?
Yeah, tarantula the spider. They like barbecued. I think it's because it was kind of that smoky, barbecue-y type essence as to why it was something that was so much better than the other things. Alright, so we are almost done here. How are we doing on the cucumbers, my lovely helpers?
Almost 4.
Okay, good. Because we're going to have a nice tasty salad that people can kind of taste and snack on, and we'll get started on the sukiyaki dish. But we can walk through the dressing as soon as you guys are ready. So just let me know when we're ready there. And the other thing, so I was doing a little bit of research because I wanted to know what I was talking about, because when we cook, we know what we do, but we don't necessarily know all the historical things. And I'm not going to bore you with history because it's not school. But my family, so my grandmother was born in Kyoto, which is south of Tokyo, and it's the Kansai region, and so when they make sukiyaki, they put it all in one pan. So we're going to do it that way today because that's what I know best. However, I do have lovely veggie-friendly folks here, so I'm going to be veggie-friendly for you. I've got 2 pans. Apparently, fun fact, in Tokyo, they separate. So they put the meat in one pan and the veggies in another pan. So I'm going to do it both ways because we've got lots of burners and lots of helpers. And so everybody should at least get to taste something. Whether it's the veggies, the meat, both if you're so inclined. So it should be good. The other thing I cannot find, so community members, Marakshi, please help. One of the ingredients I could not find, I went to all of the places I thought I could find it, is shirataki noodles. So they're noodles made with yam. And I thought that maybe because gluten-free is kind of a trend, I would be able to find them because you can find them in America now. But I've read that we can the vermicelli. Hello, welcome. The level. So it's a lot of chopping, but once you get the chopping done, it comes together really quickly. But I thought Priti and I had talked about doing a quick salad or a not so quick salad, so everyone can have a little crunchy snack while we're prepping everything else. All right. So, like I said, pretty simple. You're going to put in some salt, and it's a lot of cucumbers, so it's going to be maybe more salt than I think, but I'm not going to go crazy yet. And then some mirin. Yeah, here's some salt, some mirin. And I got, at the Green Village, they have this organic mirin. But it's just like a sweet rice wine and rice vinegar. And I actually, when we were testing the tech on Thursday, I made this for Priti, so she's tested it already. And a little bit of sugar. And I'll see like a big spoon to mix as well. And a little bit of sugar. So there's something that I learned, Salma, is when I took the cooking class in Thailand, I learned the importance of the balance between the salty and the sweet and the sour. And I think sometimes we just don't think of it. We cook, we eat, we know what we like. But having that balance, especially in Thai cooking, is super important. So same with this particular salad. You need the tangy, you need the salty, but you also need the sweet. So, yeah. This is one of those dressings where literally I just do it until it tastes right. So I think before it goes into our cookbook, I will definitely, yeah, just like this, but this is one of the recipes that I will, I think, measure out before it goes into said cookbook, but I really just do it till it tastes correct. Yes, it's school's cooking. The one your mom was talking about. Alright, so you've got your vinegars, you've got the mirin, you've got salt and some sugar. Actually, I might have it right.
Everyone will have a snack while the cooking gets done on the stove. Yeah?
Yeah. And then it will be a little less awkward that I have to turn my back to you, so you can have something to eat while I'm talking that way. Alright. So, again, super simple, salt, vinegar, mirin, and then when you want to make it pretty, not that pretty, aesthetically pretty, you use some sesame seeds. So you sprinkle a little some sesame seeds on top to make it look nice. I don't know, can the camera see it? They can't see it. Where should I go? To here?
Yes.
Yeah. Alright. Ooh, so fancy. Alright. I think it's probably good.
Daniel, do you want to come in the bowls to help your wife serve?
This is my normal sous-chef. I don't know how camera shy he is, but he's my normal sous-chef at home. So enjoy a little tuna salad. It's just cucumber salad. Sounds fancy. And we'll get started with the spaghetti.
Good. That's what I like about this.
Okay. I'm gonna switch to switch to here. You're fine. Okay. Oh, and I brought this because it's something my grandma gave me. It's a Japanese acorn. It's all weird. That's why not.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, question.
Is there a reason because it's under heat so long time?
No, it was just so I didn't have to turn it on. They turned it on for me.
Okay, because sometimes you know the temperature.
Yeah. No, it'll be okay.
You just forgot.
Yeah, no, I didn't. Yeah. Okay, so we are going to get started. You just want to put a little bit of oil in your pan.
You should feel very comfortable here then.
Is it okay? Okay, good. All right. At this point, keep going. Keep going. All right. So we're gonna start cooking the sukiyaki, and then Jad, Hamza, when you guys are done with the carrots, let me know because I need you to slice the meat for me. All right. So I put a little bit of oil in the pan. So the one thing my mom always did is she cut all the onions first, mainly because she hates the onions and they make her cry. So you cut all the onions.
Let's go with the carrots.
You done with the carrots? And save the greens, because we can use those. Those greens, save those. Yeah, we can use those. You can do all kinds of good things with them. Yeah. So, now that you're done with the carrots, if you could, I've got a bunch of meat, and what you need to do is see there's a little bit of like the thread that the butcher used. You just want to pick off the thread and then you want to thinly slice the meat. I guess I can demonstrate that. What's really nice is that there's marketing with community, the Arabic, there's French, there's English, there's Japanese, there's Spanish. I got a couple of kilos because I wasn't sure. We were just going to taste. Alright, so what I need you to do is I need you to, first of all, look to see because there's a little bit of like the thread from the butcher. Just take that off. And then take the fat off. Because we're actually going to use the fat. But just take the fat off because you can render this into the skillet, so we'll do that. And then with this, so one thing, I'm super spoiled living either in Taiwan or in America because it's really hard to find the right thin cut meat that they used in like the hot pot dishes. But our butcher down the street is really sweet, so he cut the meat really thin. And then I'm going to have my assistants just thinly slice it into just thin strips. And then we'll put it in a bowl. Is that the fat? Okay, perfect. Yes. Any questions about the meat? Okay, yep, perfect. Thank you. All right. Okay, so you just want to cut the meat into small strips. Because I am lazy, usually in America I would just buy it already sliced. It's usually very thin and in small strips like that. But you make do with what you can, with what you have. So we're going to use the tallow and render that out for the cooking of the meat. And then, so gentlemen, if you, perfect, is this the, where we're putting this at? Okay. And then you just want to thinly slice the meat into just strips. Yep. It doesn't matter. It cooks really quick. Hello, Brian. Welcome.
Thank you, Lisa.
So yeah, you just thinly slice it. If you can't find it already done for you. Alright, where is the slice?
Slice right there. Oh, this slice right there. Never slice it, unslice.
Alright, I'm just gonna leave this here. Alright, if somebody wants to slice this one over here. No, I mean, you can slice it here. There's another one too. Alright, now that we've got that sorted. Yeah. And we got the best sous-chefs. Thank you, thank you. Where is the garbage? Where should I put the trash? And then make sure you wash your hands when you're dealing with meats, because you know, I'm just gonna wash my hands real quick. Don't mind me. So yeah, but it's a really easy dish. I know it looks like more intensive because we're chopping everything and that takes a while. But once you have everything chopped, it's easy. Okay. So, this is how my mom and my grandma always do it. They've got a little bit of oil in the pan, they've got their onions chopped, and so then the first thing you do is you just put your onions in the pan and let them cook down.
There was oil inside or?
Yes. Should I move this? Is okay? Okay. All right. I'm gonna do the second can for our vegetarian friends. Okay, so you've got your onions cooking, and you just let them, what is that called, when they wilt, they melt down a little, they soften. I don't know, it's maybe a medium heat, maybe? Oh, no, it's fine. I'm just trying to think of like directions. Because I just do and I don't talk about what it is that I do. let the onions soften, cook down a little. And so the way that my grandma always did it is she put the onions in first, and then she puts the meat in next, and you just kind of move things around. So you make room in the pan because eventually everything goes in the pan. And so when we're done, you'll see all of the elements in the pan itself. And there's more salad, so if people feel like they need to munch, we can move that down so people can do that. But anyways, you do that, and then we add in our meat. We're almost ready for that part. So while things are cooking, usually what you do is you chop everything else while things are softening. We'll throw the meat in. Once we put the meat in, we use half of the sauce. And then we'll put in the noodles, the tofu, the cabbage, and we'll put in the rest of the sauce, and then it just cooks until it's done. So at this point, everything goes pretty quickly. So we want to start the rice if you haven't started the rice yet. So it's been soaking, I washed it. We'll start the rice, and that'll be done. This is kind of an experiment. I've never actually used the rice cooker to capacity before. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully the texture is okay. If you could cut just the cabbage, so wash the cutting boards because we don't want to contaminate. This one needs to be chopped as well. Okay. And then if you could, so one of you can wash the cutting board, you can finish the meat. And then the cabbage just needs to be chopped in, roughly chopped, so I would cut it to look, kind of like this, you know. It can be kind of big, it's going to wilt down, so you don't have to worry too much. So these vegetables, the bok choy, the cabbage, you can just cut them into little pieces, and that doesn't matter too much. The main sauce ingredients for the, you know what I just realized? Did I put sesame oil in the salad dressing? I don't think I did.
You did.
Did I?
Yes.
Okay.
You put sesame oil.
Yeah, I put sesame seeds, but it's supposed to have sesame oil. Is it in there? It's not in there. Oh, you guys are tasting like a different vegetable salad.
Oh, at least the students what they get.
Yeah, it's fine. It's the live fail. It was bound to happen. I remembered most things this morning, but it is what it is. All right. So the other thing you're missing in that salad is that sesame velvety oil flavor that you're not getting. You know. So if you want to like sprinkle some of that in, be my guest. Sorry about that. Okay. So we've got the vegetables cooking. Do I want to what? Yeah, Selma's got it. Selma can take care of it. Thank you, Selma. Just a little drizzle and then stir it all together. Okay. I'm heating up the water for the vermicelli noodles, which is really loud, by the way, so I hope everyone can hear me. It's fine. We'll soften those for about 10 minutes before we put them, or maybe less. Where did you find this cabbage? At the farmer's market. There's a garden restaurant. It's General Gardens. They go overseas. There's a farmer's market every Saturday at the garden restaurant. Thank you. You're welcome. Yeah. Okay. How are we doing on the meat? Is the meat ready? Gentlemen, lovely, seems fine. Is the meat ready to go? Yes. Jad. And then you want to put in your meat. Yeah? Thank you, Ryan. I definitely think this is why in cooking shows I have everything chopped ahead of time. And then this is the fat. I'm going to do it in the other dish. We're just going to try and render out some of the tallow. Should I move the bowl? No, I'm just okay. Maybe just get in that bowl for now. Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Where are you come from? Okay. Okay, so.
Yes, teacher.
Alright, let me use my teacher voice. I use my teacher voice all the time. So, in this pan, this is, like I said, this is the pan that I traditionally, like we make at home with the family, is we put everything in the same dish. You start with your onions. Once your onions are softened, you put in the meat, and you get the meat to start to brown a little. I'm also separating it out because we have some lovely friends that I want to feel included that don't eat meat. So in this bowl, we're just rendering out, so this is the fat that was on the meat that we removed. We're just going to try and render out some of the tallow or the oil there to season the meat. So once you get it browned, then you want to start to add your sauce. And this is kind of a universal Japanese flavoring or Japanese seasoning sauce. But we're going to take and I went and got like a bunch of other soy sauces, nothing against the ones at Carrefour, but I went to find some ones that weren't the Chinese brand. The basic ingredients is soy sauce, sugar, and a little bit of mirin. So they use mirin a lot. The other thing they use, that my grandma uses, but I had a hard time finding, is sake. They'll use that as a cooking wine as well. But I couldn't find it, and so it's not that important. My mom, by the way, never uses it when she makes this. She just uses soy sauce, sugar. Sometimes she doesn't even use the mirin. So you just kind of want to brown the beef a little, and then you'll season it with the sauce. And again, like I said, I don't ever measure anything. I just go until it tastes correctly. But the recipes that I looked at online, they traditionally do a cup of soy sauce, a cup of mirin, and a half a cup of sugar. Right? I don't like it super, super sweet, so I usually mess with it. Like I said, I cook until I like it, and then that's kind of my MO. But in general, those are your guidelines. Use like equal amount of soy sauce and cooking wine, and then sugar is about half of that. So we're going to attempt to try to replicate the flavors. Alright. And it looks like we're starting to render out a little bit of the fat here, so this will be good. We'll cook the meat in this pan. Maybe all of the beautiful dogs out there could get a little fat in their dinner tonight. Ooh. Because Lord knows I spoil my dog. Alright. So, I brought like all my chopsticks because Pretty said she didn't have any, so I've got like a whole container of them.
You find chopsticks helpful?
Chopsticks helpful? Yeah. I can give you all a nice little lesson on how to use them.
Isn't it also traditional to use chopsticks?
Yeah, which I looked up, the French word is bâton, right? Like stick, baguette. Is there a Doritos word for these? I just even know. Okay. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. Oh, yeah. But this is just like that. Yep. I'm gonna try not to burn my clothes. Put the soy sauce, and then you put in the meat in. So we got us a little bit of fat that we'll use the meat for the separate dish. How's it going, Dad? You need something to do? You need something to do? So we need to cut the point. Just the same.
So what's your favorite dish?
Say a few words. Yeah. Sorry, the sauce line.
But we, it's our first business making rolls, and we wanted to see, I like fishing, so I like to,
Okay,
call it something like
so,
that,
as it starts to come together, again, like I said, in my family, we always put it all in the same. So once you get the sauce, the onions, and the meat kind of browned and going, then you just start to add in all your vegetables. So I put in the carrots, I'm going to put in the cabbage and the bok choy. I'm going to put in the tofu. How do you chop the bok choy?
Cut it from the center.
So, you can, it's a rough chop, right? It doesn't have to be, it's going to melt. So you just want to cut it kind of roughly. And then the other thing is, I know there's all these like fancy terms, julienne and all of these. This dish is very informal. Just cut it, put it in your pan. Okay, so the other thing we need to do is we need to soften the vermicelli noodles. So this bowl you can fill with the hot water and then keep the noodles in. Typically I use yam noodles or shirataki noodles. I can't find them here. So everything online said just use vermicelli. You can find vermicelli everywhere. So we've got hot water, and all you're going to do is soak it. It says 10 minutes, but we're not going to do 10 minutes because we're going to stick it in the skillet. But we're just going to soften the vermicelli for a minute. And we will. Perfect. Thank you.
Do we need more water maybe?
Yeah, maybe.
How are you doing?
No pressure. Welcome to the kitchen. Yeah. How are you, Elias? Good, good, good. Yeah, my grandmother on my mom's side. So I'm a border.
Hello.
Hello, chef.
Hello. That sounds exciting. Yeah, it's just soy sauce and meat. And a little bit of butter. That's it. Yes. Just a sweetener of some kind. Shukran, bize. How is it? What? Sukiyaki. Sukiyaki. Or sukiyaki.
I look forward to
Thanks for coming. I'm so happy that you came.
Okay, guys, let's bring up the last 5 minutes of the dish. Mackenzie?
Yeah. Are you ready? Yeah. Okay. Okay, so the veggies are cooking down. And the one thing that I would say people in general, tofu for whatever reason is not a loved ingredient, but it should be. So here's my tip. If you don't like tofu, it's because whatever sauce they put it in, you don't like. Because tofu, it's just fermented soybean, it soaks up any sauce that you cook it with. Oh, look, he knows. He knows it's
Isn't it harder to season tofu?
I mean, again, it's all about what you cook it with. So if you cook it plain, it's going to taste plain. So, for whatever reason, firm tofu is very hard to find here. This is the extra firm tofu that you can find at the Carrefour, but it's pretty soft. So we're going to just pretend that it's firm tofu. I also found some lacto-fermented tofu at one of the grocery stores, but it's very simple. It slices very simply. You're just going to cut it into cubes, and then you're going to put it in your sauce. And the longer you let it cook in the sauce, or the more sauce you add, the better it's going to taste. Because it tastes like whatever it is you cook it in. So, for all you tofu naysayers out there, it's just because you've had a bad sauce, or you've had someone who doesn't know that it takes on the flavor of what it is you are cooking. So we're gonna put the tofu in. You see the vegetables start to cook down, and really that's all you're waiting for. The meat at this point is done. The noodles are done. We're just gonna put them into our pot. So again, as you can see with the big one, which will kind of glamorize on the camera, a little bit of everything goes in it. So you just kind of push things over. While everyone was having like their social moment, I added the shiitake mushrooms. You can dice them, My mom actually doesn't really use them. I really like them, but they are kind of a strong flavor. They are a little chewy, especially here. You can't find them fresh, to my knowledge. If you know, let me know. So they're just rehydrated from a dry package. But they are a strong flavor that will add that kind of umami to the dish. So once you get to the point where you're putting all the vegetables together in the pot, you then add the rest of your sauce. So you kind of start with half the sauce and the meat and kind of the onions, and then you add the rest of the sauce when you put in the rest of your veggies. So we'll call that good for now. Oh, and in general, like fun cultural tip, don't put your chopsticks in things like this, or in your bowl of rice, straight up and down. It mimics incense, like honoring the dead, so it is considered a cultural taboo. So don't do that. Fun fact, something to know.
That was super dark, really good.
It's not dark, it's just good to know when you travel, right? You don't want to offend people.
Yeah, you're right.
Alright, cooking chopsticks for here. And you can see, right, the pan is super crowded, but everything fits magically. So we're just gonna scoot over the bok. Thank you, sous-chef. We're gonna scoot over the bok choy, the green onions, and we're just going to add this tofu. Not that one. Keep those to that. Okay, keep that for now. And I'm going to add the rest of the sauce. Like I said, I will look up better dimensions. I just go till it tastes right. It's way more like sugar and soy sauce than you think. I also reserved the shiitake mushroom soaking liquid, so you can use that a little to kind of add a little bit of water. So it should taste good. If you have a lid, you can put a lid on to get the greens to wilt a little quicker. This is the soaking liquid from the shiitake mushrooms.
Okay.
So we rehydrated them because I couldn't find them fresh. Yeah. So you kind of stir it all in. And then because it's very much a family style dish, you take this entire platter, put it on the table, and everyone has essentially something like this size in Japan, where you've got your bowl. What you have in it is your rice, and then you just eat out of it. Because of Corona and because we're all not that close yet, we're gonna put it all into different bowls because, you know. But come to my house and you can eat out of the bowl with me. It's fine. Because, you know, that's what food does. I think this is a testament to that. Food brings us together. We're interested. We learn about each other through food. One of the things I forgot that Priti told me I should mention is if you have grandparents or older people in your communities in general, talk to them. They've got amazing stories. For whatever reason, little 12-year-old Mackenzie decided, Grandma, I want to know how to make sushi. So Grandma came over, bought me all these things, and we had an afternoon. And that sticks with me, right? She's still around, but she doesn't make sushi anymore. She's in her 90s. She's going to be 91 next month. So, you know, really interesting stories. I was telling, I can't remember if it was the geography class. I think it was. But, you know, I don't think it was you particularly, Ryan, but you're in that class, and I'm looking at you very awkwardly. But I took Asian American Women's Studies course as part of my ethnic studies major, and I interviewed my grandma as part of one of the projects. And she came with a box, she took out photos, she left, and my mom came into the room and said, those are things I've never seen. So it's amazing what you can learn if you just ask. You know, I learned that in Iowa, my grandma came to the United States just after World War II in the 50s. And in Iowa, her father-in-law, who was American, taught her how to drive, although the insurance company would not insure her because she was Japanese. So they're just really interesting stories. Gotta love the father-in-law, whom I never met because he's very old. But he apparently took the entire family off the insurance and said, if you don't insure my daughter-in-law, you can insure our family. So like you learn really interesting, cool stories about family, about, wait, sorry, I'm trying to be veggie friendly. I've got my veggie chopsticks over here, and we need to add some soy sauce and some tofu to that one. But anyways, this is what it looks like in general when we cook it at home. It's all in the same pot, everything kind of wilts down. The tofu looks like it needs a little bit more soy sauce because it should turn kind of a light tan color. And then you just eat a little bit of everything with rice. So that is what I have to share with you. Should I wrap it up or should I keep talking? Because I can keep talking. So we're going to taste, and then we're going to, obviously this is not going to feed all of us a lot, so there's other food I hear coming, so we don't have to worry about that.
So with that, I would like to thank Mackenzie Young for this amazing session and for sharing. And really, she's been amazingly generous. She's cooked for everyone, so there's food for everyone to share. And if anyone wants extra tips, come and ask her. So thank you for sharing your family history, your travels.
I said to Pretty, if anybody else would have asked me, I would have said no.
Thank you, Pretty. Thank you. And I'm also thrilled to announce that ASM mom, Kabira, is going to host the next MasterChef series. So big And now may I request our head of school, Dr. Asato, to close the session and to present Mackenzie a little book that we have for her. It's a cooking book by Rukmini Iyer, who's a new Indian chef, but New York Times bestseller list, and her forte is also to cook complicated dishes but in one cooking tray. So in the same way that you presented a food on a platter, she's doing the same thing. So thank you so much. Dr. Asato, to you.
I want to say thank you again for providing us, bringing the community together, providing us a taste of Japan sukiyaki from your grandmother's recipe. It's absolutely just heartwarming. Thank you to the sous-chefs. Thank you to thank you to the parents and the students, everyone who came here today. And of course, thank you to the Kadiris for opening up their kitchen to all of us here. We're really excited to taste the sukiyaki and have a nice afternoon together in fellowship. So thank you again.
Don't forget to take a picture for your Foodstagram because I gotta drop it on my Instagram. Let's eat. Let's
So
eat.
when you I'm sure you're gonna say this, but right before you eat, you say itadakimasu in Japanese.
Itadakimasu.
Excellent.
We say Bismillah.
Hey, my dog even knows that. She can't eat until we say itadakimasu.
Okay, let's eat.
Alright.
Come, everyone come to share this.
You mean to
Come. Should we just find out how should we do this?
Let me,
cameras off.
yeah, is it?